have you noticed it's gone from bad to worse for those Angels?
I think that might be it for Shohei. You hear the crowd murmur, and Shohei will come out of the game. We've seen this way too many times this year. Shohei leaving the mound with Mike Frostad and Ippei behind him.
Mike Trout's going to go back on the IL. Tried to swing yesterday, didn't go well. So we're going to put him back on the IL, give him some rest, see where that goes. And
This is the general manager.
Left the game today.
Harry.
We did imaging in between games. He does have a tear. Is he UCL tear? Yes.
Harry.
And now live from the Farmington Polo Grounds, here's Rob Dibble.
It keeps getting better every year. This is the 2023 Dreamride experience. We're front and center. We're right at, I guess you say, midfield of the Polo match grounds that we're in front of right here in Farmington, Connecticut. President and CEO Mike Bizzuto is walking around checking everything out. It is unbelievable. I mean, you've got the Polo match will be tonight. You got the Dream experience going on the entire weekend, the Dream Cruise, the Dream Ride. But pretty much all of this is about supporting the Hometown Foundation and the Special Olympics Connecticut. So you've got 5 countries. You've got kids from around the world that will be here in a little while. Well, they're already here, but they'll be here at the polo match. And so, as Mike Bizzuto just told me, they're very excited, and hopefully Mike will join us in a little bit. But in the world of sports, I mean, it is crazy. You know, Shohei Ohtani, everybody's talking about the money he might lose and things like that. I think the sport has lost one of its best ambassadors. I don't worry about how much money he may lose. I worry about the sport. Mike Trout, you saw at the same time, he goes on the IL again, out with the fractured wrist, came back maybe too soon, trying to help the Angels save some part of the season. And then you hear Giannis Antetokounmpo talking about the Bucks, and I'm not going to re-sign with the Bucks if we're not going to be competitive. So you have another guy that, you know, you might be talking about Shohei Ohtani, but one of the greatest basketball players at the same time. He wants to win. These players don't just want money. They don't just want to cash a check every 2 weeks. They want to compete in the postseason. And so Shohei Ohtani's injury goes a lot deeper than just a torn UCL or losing $500, $600 million and what you can salvage. That's just it's ridiculous talk. As someone who's trying to grow the game from the lowest levels, these kids, they don't know about all that stuff. They don't know about the money. They know this guy's on the face of MLB The Show. They know that this guy is the best two-way player that the game's ever seen. He is such a great worldwide ambassador. I don't understand why people are focused on real small-minded things instead of how this affects. You got the Little League World Series going on. You got people from Japan, from Chinese Taipei, from all over the world that are watching the major leagues and Shohei Ohtani's every move. So instead of having a little bit of empathy for this cat and a little sympathy for his injury, you talk about stuff that really is meaningless. So the money, it'll be there. That's not a problem. This is a multi-billion-dollar sport. But for a guy that now, within 5 years, has torn his UCL twice, had Tommy John surgery after a couple months from coming over to Japan, and again, won't be able to pitch right now. If he has to have Tommy John surgery again, he won't pitch next year either. But we saw Bryce Harper come back quickly from this injury, but you can't see Bryce Harper throw, and he certainly wasn't a pitcher.
I feel bad for the Angels. I'm sympathetic for the Angels right now. Like, I think that the Angels have put all their eggs in this basket and now are kind of beholden more to him than they were
Right.
2 months ago. You know, now if you're the Angels, you can't make the decision for him right now if you want him back. Like, if you say, Shohei, we're not even going to let you bat, we're not going to let you play anything, we're not going to let you – he's going to be like, I want to. If you do that to me, I'm out of here. You know, so they're in such a rock and a hard place. And now with Trout, like, just getting Trout back, just got him back. And now he's back on the IL. The hopes for the wild card have been dashed since these two instances. And you look at we looked up Trout's contract. He's still got 7 years left at $35 million per. We looked up Rendon's contract yesterday too when we were off. He's got $38 million per for the next 4 years. They are so strapped with just a few handful of guys that rarely get on the field, but it doesn't seem like it's the franchise's fault. They have just had some bad luck, man, with some superstars.
Well, and to put in perspective, I mean, Steven Strasburg retired yesterday.
By the way.
And the news came out, and this is kind of karma, where Mike Rizzo and Mark Lerner didn't insure the contract. And so Bob Nightingale put this out there that he is owed, I think, 37 next year, 37 the year after that.
What?
Then deferred payments. Oh, yeah, they still owe him over $100 million.
Oh,
and
Ashby.
it is guaranteed.
John's mouth
It is guaranteed.
wide
So
open.
think of a mid-market team in Washington,
Yeah.
or the big market teams of the Yankees or the Angels. So yeah, they'll be able to absorb the loss. I'm sure they insured the contracts. I'm sure Mike Trout's contract is insured. But when you're talking about this kind of money, it's incredible to think that okay, we're not going to insure a guy that probably was on the disabled list back then, and now the injured list at least 15 times.
When he came out of college.
When he came out of college, he had a torn UCL, and obviously, my history goes back with him and when I was with the Nationals. But that's here nor there.
Right.
All of these contracts are insured. All of them are insured because of something like this. At least you could recoup 2/3 of the money that you're guaranteeing these players. So that's another consideration. So Mike Trout, when all of these other contracts were given out, Machado and all these other Artie Moreno stepped up and he gave another $425 million to Mike Trout, making him the first real $500 million player other than A-Rod in the history of baseball. And that was just with one team. A-Rod bounced to a couple of different teams, ultimately extending like $275 with the Yankees. But if you look at not signing Shohei, that will be one of the smartest moves they ever make. Now, you didn't get 5 prospects or 5 players in return for him, but you're still, when he goes free agent, you get a first-round sandwich pick.
I know.
So, in terms of dollars and cents, these contracts matter, whether it's Antetokounmpo, whether it's Shohei, but these guys are also ambassadors. So, as I've said before, you're paying him for that, the status of what he holds in Japan and what he brings by bringing players over here that want to follow in his footsteps, just like Ichiro, just like Matsui. These guys are icons. Yeah. They're not just baseball players. They're not just athletes. They're business people. And so that's the way you have to look at Shohei right now. Right now he may be injured physically, but he's still a hot commodity.
Yes.
He's still the kind of guy that we can build around at least for the next 5 to 7 years on some other organization. He's only 28 years old, and I say that because, listen, you can fix the UCL. You can bring this guy back, but you're still going to be able to market him, whether it's merchandise this guy, whether you're marketing to get TV contracts and things like that. That's really what you're trying to do here.
Right.
You had to re-sign Aaron Judge to make sure people kept subscribing to the Yes Network.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about Aaron Judge staying on the Yankees. It was about, hey, we've got to keep these. It's like Howard Stern and Sirius XM. If we don't bring him back, a lot of our subscribers are going to leave us. So, the money is really about, a lot of these players and making sure that they either stick with your organization or if they come to your organization, being able to sell them for years on end. Listen, I just saw this whole thing about Mookie Betts and him coming back to Boston for the first time in 4 years.
Yeah.
He's kind of emotional about it. People are still kind of shocked in the Red Sox organization that he was traded in spring training to the Dodgers. Unbeknownst to him, he was shocked by the move. And, I don't know if it was a money-saving thing or it was just at the time 4 years ago the Red Sox were trying to buy, an NFL team. They were trying to buy Wembley Stadium.
Either way, they're saving money.
Right, but what I'm saying is, did it work? Did not re-signing Mookie Betts help the Red Sox or hurt the Red Sox over the last 4 years?
And plus, you're talking in a world of investment, a world of he's around, everyone else is those boats are gonna raise as well with that high tide.
Well, Nesson's ratings tanked.
Yeah.
They one of the reasons that Terry Francona, they got rid of him wasn't just the baseball they were winning, was their ratings on Nesson tanked, and they were like, you remember this whole thing?
Yeah.
So just think about with Mookie Betts now coming back as a Dodger. Does Xander Bogaerts want to stay here? Do Benintendi want to stay here? I mean, that all of those things matter, and that's what you've been trying to do with Shohei.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do with Antetokounmpo. So it's not just the Shohei injury. We've got these issues everywhere, and don't forget, don't be stupid. Insure these large contracts so that if a guy retires, you don't have to eat like $120 $25 million.
Especially if that guy was injured in college. You're going to be worried about that in the future. Oh, my gosh. Not my money, so I ain't worried about it,
Right.
Gibbs. We had fun last night. Coach Moore Live was in the house at the Duncan Music Lounge. Big thanks to everybody who showed up. Our listeners all showed up.
Oh,
You're
they're
hanging
fantastic.
out.
Tamika was there, one of our P1 listeners. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's great.
She wants to know how she can get into the business.
Excellent.
And I told her, listen, you gotta
Awesome.
get in here and start asking every week to get in the door.
I
you
think-
got to be very proactive.
I
in this
think
business.
a lot of people had some like no matter what you were doing in life, I think you left that more energized and
I'm ready to
motivated.
play. I'm 60 years old. I'll tell you what, I got eligibility left, Coach. You want me
Same
to go in
here.
and take somebody out on
Same
a
here.
special teams kickoff? I'll do it.
That's just the power.
I might wind up in the hospital, but yeah.
the power of Jim Mora to motivate us all in
It's
that room.
presence.
Yeah.
It's presence. He commands the room. He's got presence. He's very realistic. You know, when people were like, you worry about the fans. Blah, blah, he's like, I'm not worried about the fans. I'm worried about we're going to bring fans in when we win.
Right.
When we win and we show them that we mean business, they're going to support us. And so, yeah, I've been talking about this for 9 years. This is going back to Bob Diaco. And, you've got to win. You've got to have a program that these people can believe in. And so you've got your football team believing. You've won 6 games and went 6-6 in the regular season. But I think, talking about independent or being in a conference and having things to play for, the one thing you're playing week to week on right now is to try to get people to believe in your product and what you're putting on the field. And I feel his pressure that he really wants this to work and work in a big way. But man, once you start the season, there's so many things you can't let. It's like the Roberson injury last year.
Yeah.
You've got everything ready. Boom, boom, boom. You go down the field. It's a great drive, and then boom, the guy gets hurt. Next drive. That's the business of football. It's a very violent sport, and you can't control injuries. You can't control them in baseball. I heard a lot of jargon on Twitter about the injuries to kids in baseball and Shohei and stuff. Listen, I've been doing this for over 25 years. I was a player that had to retire because of injury.
Right.
The more you use your body to play one sport, the quicker things are going to wear out. It's pretty simple. I've talked to doctors for 2 decades. It's pretty simple. Overusage is going to lead to injuries. So, baseball, football, the more you're out there and you're risking your body for all this glory and entertainment, that's the bottom line. That's the one thing Jim Mora can't control is how healthy he can keep this team.
What I did like some of those conversations where a lot of people were kind of apologizing to Coach Mora for the lack of attendance last year, and he's like, "Hey, I wouldn't have come either."
Right.
Until
You got to earn that.
He said, "I'm done shaming fans. It's not the fans' fault. If they want to come, they come.
Yep.
If they don't, they don't. We've got to put out the product that gets them in their seats." And I will just say it. He's could have a national championship caliber basketball team and they go through a 10-game slump and then all of a sudden they're a bunch of bums.
Yep.
And then 2 months later, I always believed, always loved them. I think that corner's going to turn. I think it started last year with the top 25 win against Liberty, beating Boston College, which is an ACC Power 5 school. I think the ball is definitely rolling in that direction. And you've brought this up all the time. Like, you got to support. You got to represent. I don't care what the situation is with the football team if they're over. This is your team. You've said that since day one here.
Well, that's from my perspective. My perspective is, don't jump on the bandwagon now that they won 6 games.
Right.
He did an amazing job. He set up exactly what happened last year. They went 1-4. They could have thrown in the towel. They're kids. Most kids want to quit and be like, you know what, this isn't working. I'll transfer. I'll get in that transfer portal and get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
A lot of these kids stuck with the program, stayed in there, and they come back and they go 6-6. And so thinking 5-1 at home and with the place half full, Imagine. I mean, the best you could do is undefeated, but at the same time, It's about you fans. You fans want to get behind these young men and everybody involved in the whole situation. There's so many people. Now you got Jim Pagano is involved, and the guy's got lots of NFL experience. These guys are trying to get to the next level. It's the same thing we talk about the Hartford Yard Goats. Yes, they may not be professional, but with NIL now, you have a chance to pay some players, get them here, get more 4-star, 5-star players to come to UConn. But the thing is that you want the perception that we're rabid for football, we're hungry for football. I said that the other day, and I still mean it. Yeah. That if you've got 40,000 fans, most of these places are packing 100,000. Go to Ohio State, go to Michigan, go to Oklahoma, Texas. You're talking 100,000 to 110,000 people.
And probably another
and they don't care.
That didn't have
tickets.
Yeah.
They're sitting, they'll stay in the parking lot. So, we're just asking for 40.
Yeah, I know.
6 times.
We're getting close.
But my point is, the more you show people, because, listen, I'm up in the press box. I'm up in the suites. I'm doing a lot of stuff, represent iHeart and representing, of course, UConn and Learfield. But you're recruiting players. They're recruiting baseball players, basketball players, all the women's sports. They're at these football games. Nobody wants to see it half full. You want to see it packed. Whether we win or lose, that's not. It's like Tim Restall says all the time. It's the experience. So when a 18-year-old young person comes into Rensselaer, and it's rocking, and then you look at the football product and they're rocking. They're going to want to come play here. And listen, I just saw a waiting list of how many kids are trying to get into UConn right now. So that, again, winning sports programs is going to bring more academic people to the university, and that's what UConn's looking for.
I'm glad you brought up the ABCs of college sports. Always be Cruton. Yep. Now, on that same tip, Dibs, rumor has it, my 2024 prospect that I would love
from Maine,
Cooper Flagg, coming from Maine to possibly play on the UConn men's basketball team.
UNC and UConn.
Kentucky's also in the mix as well.
It's 3 schools, Duke, Kentucky, UConn.
And when you go to those programs, now we will be playing Duke, and maybe that's the weekend he will be on campus. It might be Thursday against NC State, but you are exactly right, sir. Yep. There are so many basketball recruits that have gone to football schools because of the Saturday atmosphere. And if we can create that, which it's great out in the parking lot, but if you can see it on television in the stadium, that also helps women's basketball, men's basketball, and everything in between because of the ABCs. Always be Cruton.
It's always about representing. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's and like you said, Jim Mora is a great representative. Dan Hurley, Gino Oriema, we have great coaches. All the women's coaches, all of those programs. It's not just about winning national championships. It's about when you're out there in the community. It's like, right now. Up in Vernon, the Miracle League field is almost built. Yeah. It's almost completed in a couple of months, and I think it's September 8th. Don't quote me on this, but I'll look it up during the show. I think September 8th or September 20th, I think, is the ribbon cutting ceremony. Right. And the kids are going to get out there, and they're going to have a great field. But a lot of that, we were involved with UConn. We were out there in Tolland, and we were having the coaches and the kids clinics and stuff. And Jim Penders and all of their coaches and all the surrounding universities are all involved. So it takes a village. It really does. And, we as someone that's been around UConn all my life, my sister went there in the 70s. My wife is an alum. Her father was an alum. But it is a wonderful program now to get behind and back. And it starts next Thursday, man. Sell out the rent. Support them, and good things are going to happen.
All right. Is this Bizzuto right here?
This is Mike Bizzuto right here.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll have the man that's putting all this together. We're live from the Dreamride, the Farmington Polo Club, sir. Do I got to drink everything with my pinky out here? Is that how
Maybe.
You do it?
You can ask Mike.
All right, excellent.
All right, Mike Bizzuto coming up next.